When it comes to becoming a freelance copywriter, you've probably watched all of the videos, listened to all the podcasts, read all the blog posts, and you've probably done a million Google searches that say how to become a writer. Or if you're anything like me, you're sitting in an office right now or back home from your office job and you're Googling, how do I escape this 9-to-5 job? What jobs can I do online? How can I make money doing something I love? So I have good news for you. It is 100% possible to become someone who writes from home for a living, writes about topics they're interested in. This is 100% a legitimate career. You don't need to become an OnlyFans girl or a crypto bro to make money online. This is an actual career field, one that I am part of, one that I broke into without having any experience. So that's why I'm really excited to bring you this video today. If you have been spinning your wheels and trying to learn all of the things, but you still feel stuck and that you're missing something, this video is going to clear a ton up for you and give you a full breakdown of how to actually break into this career field. You're going to have a solid understanding that allows you to move forward and just allows you to understand how people make a living as freelance copywriters. So I'm going to give you just a brief overview. I think this is actually pivotal to your understanding for the rest of the video to understand what a copywriter is, what they do, what they're responsible for. And you might be thinking, well, I already know that. I've looked this up. Well, what I see as somebody who mentors freelance copywriters is that a lot of the confusion about how to get started and how you get gigs when you're not experienced comes from a lack of understanding about what a copywriter does, why people hire copywriters. When you have that foundational understanding, you'll actually be able to understand the steps to take to become a freelance copywriter and how to get gigs even if you don't have experience. So you really have to understand this. So copywriters are people who write persuasive marketing and sales copy for brands and companies. Old school used to be called advertising. Now people generally say this is the marketing world. This is a persuasive form of writing that is meant to hold somebody's attention in order to bring awareness or sales to a company. So what does that include? Well, sales letters, website copy, email newsletters, social media captions, all of the stuff that we're consuming on a day-to-day basis. Even if you see a banner ad and it has a headline, that is written by a copywriter. A lot of people overlook that and just take it completely for granted. They say, oh, the company's putting out this message. No, a copywriter wrote that message and analyzed it and obsessed over it and tried to understand what message would most resonate with the target audience. So when you understand that this is actually a function of business, I think it clears up a lot of confusion about what your writing skills actually need to be and what type of writing this is. This is not journalism. This is not academic writing. This is not storytelling in the sense of like a fiction novel, although storytelling is part of writing persuasively, but you're not writing a fiction novel is my point. And even if you've read blogs online and you've Googled how to do something and it led you to a blog post, well, there's somebody behind that blog post probably trying to monetize in some way, whether it be through ads, whether it be through affiliate links within the text. There is a goal behind that blog post. So you might have heard of famous copywriters. There's David Ogilvy. I was a big fan of the show Mad Men, and Peggy Olson became a copywriter. She graduated from secretary to copywriter. But as a freelance copywriter, you're going to be an independent contractor working for individual clients that you take on. You're going to be managing your own workload and setting your own deadline. And you could be working for multiple clients, multiple companies, depending on your deadlines, your workload, your availability, your schedule. If you're an in-house copywriter like Peggy Olson, you'll probably work at one company, whether it be part-time or full-time. Maybe you're being hired on an as-needed basis. Here are the different types of freelance writing in a general sense. There is technical writing. That could be writing instruction manuals for maybe like a vitamin brand or a technology brand. There is more creative writing in terms of articles and personal essays. There is web content such as blogging, sales pages. There's marketing writing. Maybe you're writing promotional materials like press releases or slide decks. Or you could be writing educational content, meaning curriculum for teachers or online courses. So what are you actually going to be doing as a freelance copywriter? Well, a lot of it is going to be understanding a brand's overall marketing strategy and how your writing fits into that. What message are you trying to convey? Or what customers are they targeting? Because that's what your messaging is going to be geared toward. You have to understand consumer psychology specifically for the audience that brand is trying to market to. Probably get voice and tone guides. You'll get background from the client on who their target audience is. Ideally, you need to learn from the business owner, the CEO, the marketing manager, whoever you're reporting to as a freelance copywriter. They need to give you information about who you're going to be writing towards and what you're going to be writing. Now, the more direct response you are, so I would say, you have to differentiate between content writing and copywriting. So let's just talk about copywriting right now. Personally, I'm both. I write copy and content, but copywriters are going to be collaborating with an art director, a graphic designer, web developer, people within the company that are going to help an entire campaign come to life. Because usually as a copywriter, you're just writing the words that go on the design versus actually being responsible for the design as well. Or maybe if they're producing a YouTube video, you're going to be writing the script, but then someone else is going to have to do the, production of the video and the editing. So as a copywriter, you're really just responsible for the writing. However, you need to understand the overall ad campaign because you should be giving instruction as a copywriter to the rest of those teams on how to use your words. So it's not like you just write the words and then you're like, okay, go run with it. So when I write ads for clients, I actually create little mock-ups in Canva. If a graphic designer saw it, they'd be like, girl, stop. But it helps the design team to say, oh, okay, she wants the headline here. She wants the description text here. Here's the type of image we would use to convey this message. So it's not just about words and writing. It's about the entire marketing campaign. And the more in touch with that you can be, the better your copy will convert and perform. So a big part of being a freelance copywriter is definitely going to be listening to clients and understanding their goals and delivering on what they want. It's not so much about like you and your capabilities. Obviously, you have to be very talented and smart to do this job. But at the end of the day, you have to kind of put aside what you want to do or what you think is right and be hyper focused on what the client is telling you they want and also the end audience that's going to be viewing and reading the ad or the copy. So let's talk about the difference between copywriting and content writing, because people love to come for me in the YouTube comments and say, that's not copywriting, that's not content writing, they're different. I know that, boo. I do both. So I never claim to say that copy and content are the same thing. Let me explain the differences. So at the end of the day, content writing and copywriting are both persuasive forms of writing. The goal is to compel the audience to do something, whether that's gain awareness of a brand, whether that's click to download, whether that's buy. It has a goal. Copywriting has one specific goal. It's usually to generate a sale. When we talk about copywriting, we talk about persuasive sales writing. So to do this, you have to draw the reader's attention in. You have to have a bold headline. You have to get something that makes them want to keep reading. Content is more focused on providing information and a learning opportunity versus, hey, take this action right now. So content writers focus on blog posts. That's exactly how I got my start in this field, is by offering blog post writing to companies. It's like the easiest way to get your foot in the door. So that's actually what I recommend, is getting started in content, but still billing yourself as a copywriter. You're going to be writing informational articles, web pages. I do a lot of branded articles where it reads like an informational article, like a journalistic interview style article, but it has an agenda, right? It's to push a certain viewpoint for that brand. And as a blog post writer, what I'm doing is SEO, search engine optimization, blog writing. And the main goal is to get that company to show up in a Google search with the blog post. One of the other big differences and how it becomes a little bit easier for me to remember the difference is that content writing appeals to logic, whereas copywriting really zeroes in on the emotional aspect of what gets someone to act. For example, if I'm writing ads, I'm hyper focused on ways that I can create urgency through my writing, ways that I can develop trust with my writing. And then when I switch over to the content side, I'm more focused on facts and figures and research, kind of like that logical side of the brain where people like to learn and get educated. So let's talk about the type of work I do as a freelance copywriter. I do blog posts, case studies, ebooks. These are more on the content side of my business. I also write emails, landing pages, sales pages, and ad copy. And occasionally I'll do some social media posts for my clients. So speaking of like research and data and stats, let me just share something with you, because a lot of people use market saturation as the reason to not go into copywriting. So one of the questions you might have had is like, is it even worth it with AI now to become a freelance copywriter? And my answer is yes and no, because you can't follow the old rules of what it took to become a freelance copywriter with the advent of AI. You have to do it a little bit differently now. And it's a method that I've been teaching the entire time, which is to be hyper targeted and develop an expertise and choose a niche to stand out in a crowded market. But let me just appeal to the logic for a moment and give you an idea of like whether or not this is saturated or not. So while there might look like a ton of copywriters out there, there's even more businesses that need copywriting services. So let me read this stat to you. By 2027, freelancers are projected to make up the majority of the workforce in the United States, with 50.9% of the working population. There are also 34.5 million businesses in the US. 543,000 new businesses are created each month, and 1.5 million nonprofits. Again, you can write for those types of organizations as well. So the bottom line is, if you can write well, position yourself and market yourself correctly, and keep your clients happy, you can 100% have a lucrative, high-paying freelance writing career that allows you to live life on your own terms. It is possible. I'm never gonna be one to sugarcoat anything. Something I pride myself on is being really honest and transparent about what it takes to become a freelance copywriter. I actually kind of hate that this has been billed as a get-rich-quick scheme, because it takes hard work and persistence, and you can't be a wimp about this. You need to put in the work. I can't tell you how many people are out here giving up so soon before they even put in the consistent work. You have to not give up on this. And too many people check out of the game and then start going around and telling people it's not possible. No, dude, it was not possible for you because you got frustrated and you gave up. And what's frustrating is that there's probably a lot of bad information that you followed that caused you to give up. And that's why I'm motivated to create these videos, to tell freelancers that there really is a more clear, direct path to do this. You just need the right plan. So if you're really, really new to this, you've really not written anything at this point, and you feel like you just need to learn more about what copywriting and content writing is, choose what you're going to learn and put a deadline on it. Whether that's a group of 5 articles online, whether it's a series of videos, whether it's a course, put a deadline on it, because too many people in this industry stay stuck in learning mode. It's like this masturbatory cycle of just consuming content, consuming, and no action is ever taken. So what I want you to do is put a deadline on your learning. Obviously, you don't want to go into anything feeling like you have no idea what this is, but the majority of people watching this video have probably spent the time educating themselves on how to do this, but they're just not taking action. So whatever it is that you're perceiving you need to learn in order to do this, do the learning and have a cap on it and say, at this point, I'm going to be taking action. And you might be saying, Christine, how do I practice copywriting? That's a really common question that I get, and here's my opinion on that. Logically, your first step is going to be, well, I need to learn copywriting. And I want you to reframe this and actually think about this in a different way for a second. You do not need a certificate or a degree to become a copywriter, okay? This is not something that you step into. You have to go out and create yourself as a copywriter. Let's say that you went on Shark Tank and you have a new product that you're marketing. You would have to sit there and write out the marketing materials and write a pitch and talk about how you're going to advertise this project. In that moment, you are a copywriter. So you have to really get out of this mindset of like, yes, I'm eventually going to become this professional copywriter, and you need to just sit down and do the work and bill yourself, label yourself as a copywriter, which is what I teach people to do. Many copywriters, including myself, are self-taught with free resources online. The key is to get the project, get the assignment from the client, and then learn how to do it as you go. The hardest part about all of this is getting clients, okay? So that's really where people tend to get stuck. That's, they sell themselves on the dream and they're like, yes, I want to write from home, but how do I find someone who's going to pay me for it? And then once they find out how they're going to get paid, they're like, wait, no, I can't do that. I'm not this enough. I'm not smart enough, experienced enough. All of the excuses come in. So all of the work that I do at paidcopywriter.com is literally teaching people how to break past that insecurity and this perceived lack of knowledge or experience or expertise or not being good enough. It all comes down to your mindset. Bottom line, having the natural ability to write in general, plus the ability to deal with clients and persuade clients to give me a chance, was all I needed to become a copywriter by offering blog writing services to those initial freelance clients when I first started this in 2019. And I know that it sounds 100% backwards to get clients before you learn how to do this, but in actuality, it is the only way you're actually going to get paid, is by getting clients and learning as you go, getting the feedback from them to know if your copy was, effective and whether it performed or not. Beyond basic copy copywriting skills. This really is a learn as you go profession. And what I find is that the people who enroll in my client acquisition course have taken multiple copywriting courses. This is a question that I ask on the intake survey. What other courses have you taken? And they've taken multiple, but they still haven't taken action. And that's what I'm trying to convey here. Of course, I'm always going to recommend resources and ways that you can learn, because this does require you to constantly learn as you go. So 2 things I can tell you off the bat is HubSpot content marketing resources, those free courses and certifications. I took a few of those in the beginning. That's really helpful. The Adweek copywriting handbook, it's more of an old school book, but still pretty relevant. You can learn that way. If you go to my Instagram, I have a story highlight about like all the different copywriting books and marketing books. Again, necessary, but don't let it block you. Don't let it stop you. Don't make learning a procrastination device. Okay, now here's the next thing you want to do. You have to decide what type of copywriting and content writing you want to do. Okay, this is not, hey, let me see who will hire me. You have to actually decide ahead of time what you're going to offer clients. Are you going to be an email copywriter, a sales page copywriter, a conversion launch copywriter, a direct response copywriter, a blog writer? Which one are you going to be? In the beginning, my approach was to just choose the industry that I was going to write in, which was technology. And then I offered everything under the sun. Looking back, that probably was why it felt so hard in the beginning, because I was constantly taking on projects that I wasn't crazy about, that weren't fun. But also in retrospect, I'm happy that I did learn by experience what I do like to do and don't like to do. So I would say start off by offering 5 to 6 services. But if you know you only want to do one type of writing, you're like, no, I love case studies, I love sales pages, then choose that, because that's what you're going to lead with when you reach out to clients and get hired. Someone recently asked me like, but how do you send the clients the work? This is like always a question that I get, and it's via Google Docs. So you will write your copy on a Google Doc. Sometimes if I'm doing more direct response style copywriting with ads, I will put it on a Canva mockup, but it always starts with a Google Doc, and I create a shareable Google Doc that I can email to the client. Clients will sometimes ask you to hop on their project management software like Asana. And again, you're still communicating a Google Doc back and forth. Just want to clear that up. Now, if you've seen any of my videos, or even if this is your first time, you've heard me mention choosing a niche, choosing an industry. And a lot of people wonder, do I have to choose a niche? There's actually very professional, reputable people out there saying that you don't have to choose a niche. But now we're getting to the whole AI thing, and how are you going to stand out? And that's why niching is so valuable. I can shout this from the rooftops. You should be choosing a niche. If you have to choose 2 niches, fine, but choose your specialty, because not only does it make you a standout candidate, a freelance copywriting client, it actually gives you a direction and allows you to know who you're going to target with your pitches and what type of companies you're going to go after. I think people love the concept of like, no, I want to serve so many different clients in so many different industries because I'm so multi-passionate. And those are the people, honestly, that get so overwhelmed by the amount of businesses out there. And they're like, Christine, I don't know who to reach out to. If you chose your niche, you would know automatically who to reach out to. So that clears up a lot of your confusion. Contrary to what you might think, choosing a niche and becoming narrow in that sense does not cut off your opportunities. It does not limit you. It makes you super appealing to one industry. And if you go about choosing that niche correctly, there should be hundreds of companies within that niche that are looking for a writer with your expertise. So if you choose fitness, and then all of your marketing is geared towards fitness brands, your portfolio is super dialed in with blog posts and sales page and email newsletters that are focused on that topic, you become the obvious choice to any fitness brand. So there's no way that it limits you if you choose your niche correctly. You also can earn higher rates. I never worked for more than 5 clients at once because I always ensured that I was getting enough work from one client at a certain rate to make a full-time living. So when you have a knowledge and an expertise, when you choose a niche, you automatically can command more because you have specialized knowledge. We know this. That's why in the US, at least, on the back of your healthcare card, your general practitioner has a $20 copay, and your ear, nose, and throat doctor or your chiropractor or some other specialist has a $45 copay. So we know that we pay more money for specialized knowledge. We assume that that person has spent more time and energy and has expertise that is worth more. And that is the power of choosing a niche. It's also just going to make your job easier. As a generalist copywriter, it's going to be really tough to be writing an article on like farm manufacturing equipment and then pivot to writing ads for a vitamin and supplement company. company, right? So you have to really understand that you're going to be doing multiple projects for clients, and you're going to have multiple projects to work on within one day. And for your brain to be shifting to all these different types of products and industries, it's going to feel like swimming upstream. You want to make your job easier. I know for me, so I charge $100 an hour for my copywriting services, and all of my rates are kind of built around that $100 per hour rate. I don't charge hourly typically, but I do a flat rate and it's based on $100 an hour. And what I'll say is that because I've built up expertise in the software, the technology niche, when I'm writing an article, it takes me probably half the time it would take a person who needed to learn the information in order to write a blog post. So when you have that compounding knowledge, you command more because you get more work done in a shorter period of time, but you're still charging, your rate. So if it takes you 1 hour to write a blog post that you charge $500 for, then you just made $500 in an hour. Just bottom line, time is money. So the more time you spend writing and researching and tweaking and editing is costing you. So you want to be able to work efficiently. And part of that is having a built up knowledge base instead of having to go and do the research from scratch. The next thing you want to do is choose your income goal. Are you trying to make this your full-time job like me, or is this a side hustle? You need to decide that. And you might be thinking, Christine, I am literally just learning about this and trying to see how I can get someone to pay me. Why are you telling me to pick an income goal? This is the mindset you need to have. Once you determine how much you want to make in a year, you'll be able to work backward and understand how much you have to charge, how many clients you have to work for. My whole strategy is different because instead of leaving this to chance, instead of just seeing who will hire you, instead of just becoming a generalist and seeing what people will give you which writing assignments, you're taking your freelance writing career into your own hands, you're planning it out, and you're being strategic, and you will see that all of your results will follow your plan. Maybe not to a T, right? We all set income goals, and doesn't mean we're gonna meet them 100%, but you can't hit a goal that you don't set in the first place. This is the biggest mistake that a lot of freelancers make, is that they just go into this willy-nilly, hoping somebody will give them a chance, but there's no structure, there's no plan, and that's why they get overwhelmed, because they open their laptop and they're like, I don't know what to do today. If I don't have this assignment being assigned to me by this client, I'm pretty much SOL and not making money. You need to be strategic and have a plan and map out activities that you're going to take in order to reach your income goal. And a lot of people will say, well, Christine, how much do I charge when I'm new? That is like a really common question. It's like, do you have to write for pennies? Let me explain this to you. I never wrote for a low rate just because I didn't have experience. Again, because I positioned myself as a B2B technology writer who had used software in the past and had all this expertise, right? This is how I positioned myself in the market. I never went in saying, well, I'll write a blog post for $50. The lowest I've ever charged for a blog post was $350. And that was when I had no experience and no clients under my belt. That was my rate. So you have to set your rates. You also have to be realistic. One of the best ways you can do this, and I have a whole video, I'll link to it, about how to set your rates. One of the best ways to do this is just to look at the scale. So there is free industry reports out there on copywriting and content writing rates. One of those being the AWAI free pricing guide that they release every year. There's a scale. So it'll be like, okay, blog posts, you could charge anywhere from $100 to $1,000. That's kind of a big scale. But my point being is that you want to be honest with yourself and say, well, I might not go out of the gate charging $1,000, but my time is worth something. So I'm not going to charge anything less than $80 an hour or $70 an hour. You want to make sure that you're at least charging industry standard pricing so that you're not dragging down the perceived value of this profession. You never want to just go in and write for pennies. Truthfully, I would not have been able to make a full-time living doing this because when I became a freelancer, I was unemployed. I needed to make money. So charging low just because I was inexperienced wasn't an option for me. And I really encourage you to take that mindset too of saying, hey, I'm not maybe going to charge top dollar because I'm not experienced, but I'm also not going to undervalue myself. And something that is really irritating for a lot of people is they say, just tell me what you charge for this. And that's where that pricing video that I'm going to link to goes into, like why it's hard for people to answer that question and why it's dangerous to take that advice, because just because someone charges something doesn't mean that's the right price for you. I've gone in and looked at what other people are charging for blogs and I'm charging a lot more than them. So if I was to look at that and say, oh, well, this is what writers charge, then I would be undervaluing myself and what I could get from my clients for my work, right? So you want to know what industry standards are, and it'll feel like guessing in the beginning. But the other key thing and the strategy I teach is to take a lot of meetings with prospective clients so that you are pressure testing your pricing. So for me personally, how I got up to my $100 per hour rate that I mentioned before was I would get on calls with clients, I would present my prices, and if they accepted with little to no pushback, I would know that I probably undersold myself and that I could charge more on the next call. Okay. So you really want to keep raising your prices until you start getting that pushback, until you start getting those rejections and people being like, whoa, no, this is way out of my budget. It's really a nuanced, iterative process, and why it's really hard to just go to somebody and say, what should I charge? That being said, in my community, the paid writers community that comes with 30 days to paid, I actually go in and share with you guys what I'm up to in my business and give you that behind the scenes. And I actually share my rates with you and say, hey, this is what I'm charging for this. I probably could have gotten more, but I wanted this opportunity. So that's why it's really nice to be part of a mentorship community, is that you get to actually see, because I know the students, when I did post recently about like what my 2024 rates were, they were like, thank you for actually sharing what you are charging, because I feel like we go and we ask people and we can never get a straight answer. So just keep that in mind, is that I don't think people are trying to be intentionally misleading. It just does depend on so many different factors. And it's good to just talk to other writers and see what they're charging and use that as one little data point in how you decide to set your rates. Another thing you want to decide is your main method for marketing yourself. So how are you going to go about getting clients? There's really two options. Copywriters can do an inbound strategy where they're creating a ton of content and trying to get like organic inbound attraction to their copywriting business, right? So it's like an organic long-term content strategy. They're creating informational resources geared toward their target customer and hoping that the customer consumes that content and comes to them. And then there's outbound, which is proactively applying to jobs, pitching, and putting yourself out there, which is exactly how I got my foot in the door and how I recommend everybody get their foot in the door, because if you don't have experience, you're probably going to need to do that outbound work. Now, eventually, when you build yourself up as a freelance copywriter and the compounding interest happens and people start talking about you and you have this built up portfolio, you're eventually going to start attracting inbound interest to you. People will be coming. At this stage of the game, I'm about 4 or 5 years into freelance copywriting. I don't do a ton of cold pitching, even though that's what I teach because it was so effective to get my start. Now I'm at the point where people are coming to me. I'm getting referral business. So it's not always that you're going to have to be hustling for clients. But my thing is that I'm constantly doing business generating activities, whether it's going to a networking event, asking for a referral, always hustling. It never really stops. Like, you have to generate that business when you are doing one-to-one freelance services. You really have to always be on the lookout for new clients, but it's not going to feel like such an uphill battle with how many pitches you're sending out, because I send a ton of pitches out in the beginning to get those initial clients, and then it gets easier and easier. Now I'm going to answer some of the most common questions I get when it comes to like marketing yourself and putting yourself out there as a freelance copywriter. People ask me, Christine, do I need a website? My answer to that is yes, you do need a website. If you are like dead broke right now and you don't even have that like $20 to $30 per month or whatever it costs for doing web hosting at this point, if you pay for the year, it's cheaper. If you're absolutely dead broke, go to Copyfolio or some type of high quality hosting site that makes it look as professional as possible. Do not use Canva. My personal opinion, that doesn't look super high quality for a portfolio and a website, but you need a place where people can go to learn about you. You need to look professional. So however you do that and whatever it costs you, whether you want to make it really small or whether you want to invest bigger, is up to you. Be someone who's out there, because a lot of people say, no, you don't need a website. Don't waste your time doing that. That's going to make you procrastinate. I disagree, because in what world would you give a ton of money to a business that didn't have a website? You need to make yourself look as professional as possible. That doesn't have to cost a ton. It's actually a super small upfront investment to create your own website, but it is a worthwhile cost. It's the cost of doing business, and it's compared to like other businesses out there. it is super low cost compared to like maybe like a brick and mortar, other type of online businesses. Someone said, the issue that I run into a lot is that it seems like every brand I look at already has a copywriter or good looking copy, so I don't know what to do. Okay, so I just wrote an email newsletter about this because I don't know where this concept comes from, that if you're going to be proactively targeting, your ideal clients, that they need to have some type of error, mistake, gap, big missed opportunity, that you need to be the person that's going to point out their deficiency or their shortcoming as a business owner. I want you to flip that, okay? What the reality is with freelance copywriting is that if they're investing in copywriters and they're producing a ton of content and they have a good strategy, that means there's budget for it and that you could potentially be the writer who gets a slice of that budget, okay? So what would really scare me if there's a business that has so much going wrong, they don't have a blog, they have all these spelling errors on their website, do you really want to be the copywriter that comes in and needs to fix all of those issues? People don't just hire copywriters to fix problems. Business owners hire copywriters to lighten their load and have somebody take a portion of their business responsibilities off their plate. You're providing somebody more time in their business as a copywriter. You're taking that responsibility off their plate, and it's okay if they already have that figured out. That's even better. That'll make your job easier. Try to insert yourself into existing strategies and don't think that, just because they have a good website, that there's no need for copy and content. This is an ongoing need that businesses have. The next question is, I still don't know where to start. If I DM someone, they would definitely ask for my experience and previous work that I don't have. Ding, ding, ding. This is where everybody gets tripped up. They are saying to themselves, how do I get a client to give me a chance when I don't have experience? How do I get experience when I've never had a client? Like, it's this chicken or the egg syndrome. And that's why I'm going to explain to you how to land your first high-paying copywriting client even with no experience. This is the conundrum that I would say kept me from becoming a writer for so many years, just because I just couldn't fathom how I would go about getting a writing opportunity unless I was like doing a ton of writing for free and built myself up. And I'm not going to be an unpaid intern in my 20s. I have a full-time job. When am I going to have the chance to write all of these blog posts for free and build up this huge personal brand? The math just wasn't mathing for me. So once I did figure out how to get a client to give me that chance, even though I didn't have the quote unquote experience, that's when the floodgates opened. That's when I finally got my first high paying client. That's when I repeated the process to make a full-time income. So watch the next video where I explain how to land high paying copywriting clients, even though you have no experience. It's simpler than you think. I'm breaking it all down.